pilot production, like it sounds, that's the first run through a manufacturing process. So at that point, once you've hit pilot production, you should have, I'll say, 95% of the design for the product complete. The pilot production vets the process to manufacture it. So at this point, you've got a designed product, and engineers think it's going to go together like a certain way, and they're going to do things a certain way. There's a certain process that the engineers have outlined as the way to build this product. What we use pilot production for is we say, okay, well, let's run it through this process. And then we'll go through, and a lot of times we'll decide, you know, step 5 in this initial process should really be step 3 because it's much easier to do it here as opposed to later on. But that's what the use of pilot production is. You're vetting the manufacturing process. Does the flow of how this thing gets built work, or does it need to be reconfigured? So pilot production is not a design tool, it's a manufacturing process tool.
Yeah, I would describe the the pilot production run as the manufacturing process's beta prototype. Here's our process. Let's run something through it and see what comes out the other end. And there'll be quality issues with it that well, that's great, but it's not quite right. And maybe you need to insert some test steps or calibration steps in the process somewhere. You do a risk analysis so that you can recognize when the production process is not in adequate control so that you can fix it and get it back in control. So it's control points in the process to make sure everything's still running properly. Um, so whereas the product development is developing the product, when you turn it over to, say, a contract manufacturer, we have to design the machine that's going to make the product.
Right.
It could be an actual machine that fully assembles a product with robots, right? Um, if you're making a car and you're going to make a million of them, you're going to have a lot of robots, right? So designing the process is designing that plant that's going to make the car. You can't make the car without the manufacturing process. So, and everyone kind of knows that in the back of their mind, but most products are done kind of simply. Well, these go together first, and then that goes together, and the engineer kind of makes it up while they're doing the design part because, yeah, it kind of makes sense. And you can bet that it's 90% right. And that's probably good enough for 90% of the products. But some of them, there are some lessons learned when you're doing that pilot production run that no, this isn't going to work adequately. We need to change it up this way. You're not changing the design of the product. All the same parts are going to end up in the same place at the end of the day. But the order of operations and where you test it and how you calibrate it and when, that is going to be, um, that's going to affect how well the product is put together at the end.
One thing that always pops up in pilot production, as far as things learned, is the need for like fixturing or tooling within the process. So when we're doing our design or an alpha prototype, a beta prototype, pre-production kind of stuff, um, usually engineers will just cobble stuff together so that they can get a functioning unit. But when you're out, you're in pilot production, so now you're vetting this process, right? So to raise an example, if you have to glue some two things together, right? When engineers do it in a beta prototype, they'll grab piece A and piece B and slather some glue in the middle and put them together, and they're off to the races. Whereas in production, they may not want to do it like that. They may want to take 100 of piece A and put glue on that, and then take 100 of piece B and put it on, and have 100 of these little modules put together, glued beforehand. So it kind of changes the process a little bit. The engineers did it one way. The pilot production showed that from an efficiency standpoint, it makes more sense to bulk build different pieces of the design, or build it in a bit of a different way. Like John said, all the pieces at the end of the day will land in the same spot, but it informs the process to be more efficient. So by running it through the pilot production, um, you can see those things, as well as, well, you know what, maybe we need a little fixture here, as opposed to somebody, again, to use the gluing analogy, as opposed to somebody taking two pieces in their hands, holding them together for 3 minutes while the glue dries. That doesn't make sense in production, because you don't want to have some guy just sitting there like this for 3 minutes. So you would tool up, you would get a little fixture that would be the hands, so you can glue it and clamp it and go off and do something else while that's drying. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah.
So it informs those pieces of the process as well. A lot of times when we go through pilot production, we'll get that feedback. We need fixtures here and tooling there, and set it up like this so we can build a whole bunch of these efficiently, and then it moves into the next piece of the process.